This is Austin Keating, Multimedia Specialist with Industrial Safety and Hygiene News. With me today is Heidi Lehmann, Chief Commercialization Officer and co-founder with Kenzen. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you, Austin. It's great to be here.
Kenzen is making new heat monitoring patches for workers. I understand Garney Construction has started using them. Could you give me a little background on these?
Yeah, it's very exciting. I can kind of show you the device right here. So what we're building is the premier physiological monitoring platform to keep workforces safe from really any physiological distress on the job. We're starting with heat, but on our roadmap is fatigue, overexertion, cold, other illnesses. And the device right here, this is the front end of what is an enterprise platform that's been built specifically for industrial workforces. So this is worn on the arm, on the bicep, and it samples a worker's physiology with 10,000 data points per worker per shift. And so with that, what we're doing is we're calibrating to each worker's individual physiology and then sending them alerts if they are at risk for heat injury and illness on the job. At the same time, their safety manager is also monitoring the entire team on a dashboard, and they'll see if a worker has received an alert but has dismissed it or hasn't been able to stop, and they can ensure that they rest, hydrate, remove clothing, and when the physiological variables have returned to normal, then they'll return to work. The final piece is really analytics, and that's in retrospect, but that's for EHS corporate directors. So then they're able to see either on one site or across a series of sites, which was the case with Garney Construction, what trends might be in place and then how they can then make the site both more safe and productive for workers.
So you mentioned you might be working with more companies than Garney Construction. So what are some of the different applications for using heat monitoring?
Yeah, so we have deployed across the globe. So construction is certainly the domain where we've got the most traction to date, but we've also deployed in mining, renewable energy, manufacturing, oil and gas. And so essentially heat itself, and that's where we have the most expertise right now. And the core thing we're monitoring is the prediction of core body temperature, which is a leading cause of heat injury and illness. But other things that we're monitoring are acclimatization. So this is basically for new workers. Maybe they haven't been on a site before. All of a sudden they're on a work site and they're not used to it, so they're at risk for heat injury and illness. It can also be just from being in air conditioning all weekend that all of a sudden you're back on a work site. So that's a significant way where heat injury is going to occur. Microclimate is another thing. So that is the temperature between the skin and the clothing that you're wearing. So that can heat up and put one at jeopardy for heat risk and heat illness. Of course, high temperatures outside and high exertion in one's work are also going to put one at risk. In the future, but we don't have this on the market yet, we'd be looking at things like fatigue and overexertion, cold and illness, other things that put workers at risk on work sites. But right now, just because heat is such an issue, it's from a cost perspective, $5.4 billion in healthcare costs in the U.S. from 2000 and 2009. And also a little known fact, 17% of exertional heat illnesses occur outside of the hot season. So there's a lot of cause for distress just with heat injury alone. So we're very focused on that. And, we're still a small team, so we've got plenty to keep us busy just deploying to protect workers from heat injury.
How was heat monitored in the past?
This comes up even in investor conversations because everyone's always interested, right? What are the competitive solutions out there? And in the past, our main competitor was really probably a bottle of water or a bottle of Gatorade. So there really wasn't anything that was preventative. What we're doing and what we're tying into is really a shift that's taken place because of the larger category we're in, which is called smart PPE or smart personal protective equipment. And so that is essentially sensors, cloud connectivity, and the real-time delivery of safety information. And what this means is that safety managers and EHS leads can now shift from accidents, which in our case would be somebody's had a heat stroke or somebody's dehydrated, to near misses. And so what we're catching is when those slight physiological shifts take place that indicate somebody is about to have a heat injury or is in danger of having one.
So how might this fit in with OSHA regulations and what they might expect of employers?
Sure. So interestingly, today there don't exist any formal heat standards at a national level. There are only guidelines. There are 3 states that have their own official standards, and those are California, Minnesota, and Washington. Part of the reason why there aren't different standards, or there aren't standards on a national level, is just the complexity of variables. So if you even think about it from the domain, agriculture is going to look different from manufacturing, which is going to look different from construction. But then if you consider physiology, which is obviously where we come in, individuals are all different. So your gender, are you male or female? Your age, are you young, old? Your physical condition, are you in good health, or perhaps you're on medications? These all impact your specific ability to tolerate heat, which is why what we're doing, which is personalized monitoring, is so important. So we have had a couple of meetings, just informative and exploratory with OSHA. And what we hope to do at some point is bring that information, that key information, which is the input of physiological variables on an individual level, to help bring national heat standards to workforces. Most sites that we're on will have some sort of heat safety training, but we're trying to augment that as well, because the more specifically you understand an individual, the better the heat training and the heat protection is going to be.
You mentioned the supervisor is able to see if a worker is ignoring some of the warnings that the device is giving you. Is a worker given more privileged access to more sensitive information, and is there privacy taken into account?
Austin, that's such an important question. We have designed this platform with the worker in mind. So I think, as we've spoken about before, there are 3 different users of the platform. There's the worker, the safety manager, and then EHS leaders. So the worker is the only one that is able to see their information in real time and retrospectively. They're the only ones that are able to see the biometric details. The safety manager sees the entire team they're monitoring, but the only information they'll really look at is if a worker is calibrating in a dangerous direction and has dismissed an alert. So it's really an intervention tool at the safety manager level. Corporate EHS, they're going to see all of the data across different groups, but it's going to be de-identified and in retrospect. So they're just looking at trend data to understand how they can make the site more safe and more productive. Worker privacy it's absolutely essential to what we're doing. We also have a privacy policy on our site that we took great care to write. So we actually contracted a firm in DC, Venable Law Firm, where the attorneys, of course, they practice law, but they were also all lobbyists on behalf of worker rights and data privacy experts. So we're really trying to set a standard for the smart personal protective equipment space, especially those that is looking at physiology, because that's very important information to be kept discreet for the worker only.
Well, I can't wait to hear more. Thanks for joining me today, Heidi. This has been Austin Keating with Industrial Safety and Hygiene News. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, Austin. It was a pleasure to spend time with you.